what's going on, guys? Psych Guy's back in for another video. First and foremost, as always, you guys rule, you guys rock. Horns up, definitely. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. We are now above 1,000 subscribers. Yes. Keep it coming. I promise I'm going to give it 110 each of every one of my videos. This video is no exception. If you guys are new to this channel, Psych Guy is all about high intensity, high passion, high energy. I am Psych Guy. I'm here to go ahead and spread the message about psychiatry and psychology. I'm a double board certified adult and child psychiatrist. In it to just go ahead and just give you all my good knowledge based on my clinical experience and just my knowledge from reading all these textbooks and whatnot. So yeah, let's go ahead and begin. Let's talk about this video right here. Every single video, there's always like a couple of teaching points, and this video is no exception. In this video, I want you guys to focus on mainly the core concept of complexes. Complex. What is a complex? Yes, it's a complex sort of entity, thing to describe. Basically, in a nutshell, a complex from a psychological standpoint is a core, I guess, set of, perceptions, beliefs, values, memories, emotions, wishes, all kind of wrapped up and sort of intertwined and ingrained in one's own personal unconscious, okay? And all these wishes and emotions and thoughts and whatnot, these all have this one common theme. And the theme in this video is going to be based on narcissism and grandiosity, because the complex that we're going to talk about is the God complex, okay? There are about 20 to 23 different types of complexes that I can think of on the top of my head. Adonis, Hero, Phaedra. There's so many, okay? But we're not going to discuss all of them. We're just only going to focus on the God complex. A complex that probably is the most common complex, or one of them I should say, that you good people have probably heard about. Now, when I also mentioned the word complex, I want you to think about, associate that word with the psychiatrist Carl Jung, all right? Complex and Carl Jung should sort of go hand in hand. Yes, Sigmund Freud is like a huge pioneer in the field of psychiatry, psychoanalysis, and whatnot. However, when it comes to complexes, he only really sort of talked about two, Oedipal and Electra. And yeah, so he's in the background, but Carl Sagan. Whoa, different topic here. Carl Jung. Carl Jung is the guy, the man of the hour when we're dealing with complexes. And also, when I talk about complexes, realize that if they're unresolved and they just sort of linger and sort of hang around and carry, they can in turn sort of over time create and lead to individuals forming maladaptive behaviors, emotions, thoughts, and this in itself can interfere and impede with the psychological process of individuation, or the individual being able to sort of individuate and sort of individualize himself away from others. So that could be a huge problem. So sort of keep that in the back of your mind also. And also, when I'm talking about unconscious here, when dealing with the term complexes, I'm talking about personal unconscious. So Carl Jung, he talked about the unconscious, and he kind of broke it down into two different subsets: the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. So when we talk the term complex, he's referring mainly to the personal unconscious, how the complexes sort of associated, affiliated with that. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I don't want to muddy up the waters too much because I don't want to lose half my audience already in the first 3 minutes of my video here. But yeah, just keep that all in the back of your mind. It makes sense over time, watching my videos. And and lastly also, complexes, when we talk about complexes, realize that they mainly apply to a school of psychology called depth psychology. There's like 700 different schools of psychology. That's the brilliance of this subject. And I am kind of favoring different types. You'll see sort of my likings over time, just watching my videos. But depth psychology in particular, it mainly revolves around, and it stresses that one's own personality is highly influenced by one's unconscious, okay? So yeah, these are just sort of key concepts that you need to keep in the back of your mind. I guess key highlighted teaching points. But hey, without further ado, let's check out my video. I beg your pardons. A loaded gun complex, cocky and full of it. All right. Anyways, I'll catch you on the flip side. Enjoy my video. So for those of you who don't know this case already, Matt Bevin is the former Republican Kentucky governor who just earlier this year lost to Democratic challenger Andy Beshear last month by a razor-thin margin of 5,000 votes, or 0.4 percentage points. Now originally, Mr. Bevin didn't concede until a little over a week later after a recanvass or recount of votes yielded the same results that Beshear was a clear winner. And this was not the surprising part about it. It's very common for the incumbent to not give up so easily until after a recount. This happens a lot. What was shocking was his actions just days prior to Bevin's leaving his governorship. Bevin decided to play Johnny Lawman and pardoned 428 convicted criminals, a number of them being violent criminals including child rapists and several murderers, without even having the decency to give the state prosecutors nor the families of the victims a heads up of his doing so. Now here's a small list of just some of the winners that Bevin pardoned. Now just a little warning, some of the material can be a little graphic and disturbing, so I'll put a timestamp down below to respect those viewers who may be a little sensitive to hearing this sort of stuff. But here's a small list of just 10 of the most ridiculous pardons that he pardoned that I came across. Patrick Brian Baker, who shot and killed a man in a home invasion 5 years ago. Bevin freed him after Baker's family hosted a political fundraiser for Bevin in 2018, raising $21,500 for him that went directly to Bevin to repay himself money he loaned in his 2015 election campaign. Dayton Jones, who was convicted of sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy at a party with a foreign object, causing internal injuries and then posting a video of it on the internet. At.should, who was convicted last year of raping a 9-year-old child and sentenced just last year to 23 years in prison. Not only is he free from prison, but he won't have to register as a sex offender, a status designed to help keep law enforcement and neighbors and possible victims to track his movements. Delmar Parton, who in 1994 killed his former lover, then chopped off her head and placed her body in a 55-gallon drum destined for a toxic waste site. Kathy Harless, who was sentenced to life in prison after she gave birth in a flea market outhouse and threw the baby in a cesspool. Bevin wrote that she had paid enough for the death of her newborn son. Blake Walker, who was convicted in 2003 of killing his parents and leaving their bodies in a basement. Irving Edge, who hired a hitman to kill his business partner. Kurt Robert Smith, who was convicted of the murder of his 6-week-old baby. The child's brain was so swollen that the seams between the bones in his skull were pushed half an inch apart, a state medical examiner testified. Daniel Scott Grubb, who threw a cinder block at a friend, killing him, then enlisted a friend to bury the body. Christian Moffitt, the drug-dealing, gun-toting, burglarizing son of former state representative Phil Moffitt, who has numerous convictions over the past 3 years, some of them this past April. Phil Moffitt, by the way, not only was of the same political party of Bevin, of that being Republican, but he also contributed $1,000 to Bevin in 2015 and 2019. So why would someone who took a noble oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, why would anyone pardon these individuals, especially that many on his last few days of office? Well, I can think of 5 reasons on the top of my head, and it's more than likely one of these, or a combination of these reasons. Reason number 1. Maybe he wanted to show people that he actually had a lot of accomplishments and was a highly prolific politician in his short 4-year stint. 428 pardons is plenty more than the average politician leaving office, especially one such as a one-time governor as himself. Yeah, maybe I can hit the record books with that and show everyone that they are choosing the wrong candidate. You know, it could be that he and his office just selected this large random number and really didn't read or do any research about any of these cases, just signing whatever came in front of his desk, with this whole sole purpose of his just to show everyone of the volume of pardons and productivity that he can accomplish, and could have accomplished further had he been reelected again. I've seen this phenomenon a lot with coworkers, colleagues in the real world who suck at what they do. More specifically, the lazy ones. They just milk their time, spend half their time goofing off and not really doing anything, and the other half their time, they're trying to figure out different ways to validate their job and come up with all these con tricks to convince the higher ups that they actually serve a purpose, when in reality, they really don't. So they end up not really accomplishing much. And when it's pretty much the end of their rope and they want to give it one last hurrah, it ends up being like a storm of just backed up or makeup work to prove to everyone that they are actually useful in some form or another. Sorry, by the way, for the language, but that's the best way that I can describe it. And applying to this case that we're discussing, I don't know how Mr. Bevin was a Kentucky governor, but my guess is that he probably sucked enough and didn't do much, especially to lose in a red state where he had home field advantage to begin with. So yeah, maybe this was his last sort of hurrah of work to show to all the Kentuckians and make up the work that he didn't do when he just pardoned so many people that it eventually became his not knowing who he pardoned due to the sheer volume of pardons. However, the chance of this being a reason is very low on the differential of reasons, as Mr. Bevin himself stated in a tweet that he has, quote unquote, personally spent hundreds of hours reading every application and file of those who received a pardon. I personally wrote every word of justification for each pardon granted and each sentence commuted. So this would contradict hypothesis or reason number one. Reason number two. This all could be just purposely orchestrated political suicide. As a psychiatrist, I've seen several cases of what's called suicide by cop, where usually there's someone who is very depressed, very nihilistic and hopeless, that it gets to the point where a lot of times they are too depressed to go on. So they would rather have someone kill themselves for them because their ego strength is non-existent and they're at full-blown instinctual death drive mode. And who better than a law enforcement officer who already has access to a weapon who can kill after they behave in a threatening manner to induce or trigger the officer's shooting and possibly killing of the individual. So yeah, maybe Bevin's mental state is at that point of severe stark ambivalence and stark frustration to where he wanted to just end it there and terminate his political career. Go out in a blaze of glory. And what better way to doing so by doing something that he conceived to be the easiest and quickest way of killing his political career. Or further to expound on that very point, maybe he just wanted to eliminate any future second guessing and potential guilt and eliminate any, maybe I should jump back into politics, or maybe run for Kentucky senator, or maybe even president. And by doing such an egregious act of releasing all these rapists and murderers, I won't have to face the possibility of my own conscience. Not to mention my family, such as my wife, bothering me down the road, and the what ifs and the you never knows, because I know in fact that my political career died the second that I pardoned all those violent 426 criminals back in the day. So I can now rest easy knowing that there's no second guessing or any guilt or questions or any of that, because the reality is there's nothing to discuss here. My political career died December 2019. Okay, reason number three. So these next three reasons are more likely the reasons that I think may be to why he pardoned all these individuals, but I can't say for sure because I haven't spoken to anyone and or conducted any interviews of any sorts. These are just my hypotheses and speculations onto why I think he may have pardoned all these people. But reason number three is the follow the money reason. As of right now, we know for sure that two of these individuals, Patrick Brian Baker and Christian Moffitt, involved family members of these individuals who helped to finance Mr. Bevin's campaign. Not to mention, Christian Moffitt's father happens to be of the same political party, i.e., two birds of the same feathers flock together in the same fraternity kind of thing. So yeah, follow the money. Bevin is now paying back his political donor contributors. This happens a lot in politics. In fact, more times than you or I will ever know. Make no mistake, politics is a broken and rigged system. So who knows? maybe as time goes by and more investigations are done, maybe there may be some more uncovering of these political donors than just the two that are already uncovered. Now, number 4 is actually a reason that I didn't think of until I just happened to watch another YouTube video earlier this morning, and I'm just gonna paraphrase what this other YouTuber said. It's actually from this other YouTuber channel that I don't actually watch because I'm very busy as it is, but I've seen this channel around. It's a channel called The Young Turks. I believe it's a progressive left YouTube channel, and the main host of the channel said what he thinks is that it might be like an orchestrated move to where if Bevin releases such a large quantity of 428 of these criminals, the few that were his donors may be able to easily slip through the cracks and go unnoticed. Especially if he releases the worst of the worst, like this child rapist guy, At.should, that the media would put most of their focus and attention on, distracting away from the others who donated to this campaign. Okay, finishing up this video, we're at our last reason number 5. This could all just be a reflection of Mr. Bevin possessing something in the world of psychology called a God complex. Before our discussion about what this is, watch this quick video clip taken from the 1993 movie Malice, starring Alec Baldwin and Nicole Kidman.
The question is, do I have a God complex?
Dr. Kessler says yes.
Which makes me wonder if this lawyer has any idea as to the kind of grades one has to receive in college to be accepted at a top medical school. If you have the vaguest clue as to how talented someone has to be to lead a surgical team. I have an MD from Harvard. I am board certified in cardiothoracic medicine and trauma surgery. I have been awarded citations from 7 different medical boards in New England, and I am never, ever sick at sea. So I ask you, when someone goes into that chapel and they fall on their knees and they pray to God that their wife doesn't miscarry, or that their daughter doesn't bleed to death, or that their mother doesn't suffer acute neural trauma from post-operative shock, who do you think they're praying to? Now, you go ahead and read your Bible, Dennis, and you go to your church, and with any luck you might win the annual raffle, but if you're looking for God, he was in operating room number 2 on November 17th, and he doesn't like to be second-guessed. You ask me if I have a God complex? Let me tell you something. I am God.
So yeah, Alec Baldwin, if you didn't notice in that clip, plays a Harvard-trained cardiothoracic surgeon with a self-admitted God complex. Now, this term God complex was first coined by psychoanalyst Ernest Jones in his Essays in Applied Psychoanalysis, and he basically inferred that a God complex is a belief that one is a god. In it, he described people of having God complex as being aloof, inaccessible, self-admiring, self-important, overconfident, autoerotic, and exhibitionist, with fantasies of omnipotence and omniscience. Now, he also observed that these people have a high need for uniqueness. Quote-unquote, quote his words, nothing offends such a man as the suggestion that he resembles someone else, end quotes. And basically, he said that these individuals require praise from others. Does all this sound familiar? It should, because in essence, he painted narcissistic personality disorder before narcissistic personality disorder was even coined by Heinz Kohut over 50 years later. So God complex is not an official DSM-5 diagnosis, nor is it even an official clinical term. It's basically narcissistic personality disorder before narcissistic personality disorder. Just as seen in NPD, folks with God complex have this fixed, inflated sense of personal ability and self-worth, feeling superior and highly dogmatic in their beliefs and believing that they are correct. These folks are further privileged, even requesting special consideration or privileges. Lastly, they rarely admit that they're wrong, even in the face of evidence or proof that what they're facing may be more difficult or problematic than what they are thinking. And this is what exactly could have happened with Mr. Bevin. He may very well possess this God complex and just decided to pardon all these criminals despite other staffers in his office close to him recognizing otherwise. He's God. He's right. Everyone else is wrong. Furthermore, since he's God, he's going to go ahead and punish Kentucky for not voting for him for a second term, just in the same vein as God punishing Job in the book of Job in the Bible, to teach them a religious message. Or, because he's God, he can do anything. And since the voters of Kentucky didn't vote for him, he's going to really teach them a message. The message of revenge by screwing them over, by letting all these violent criminals such as child rapists and murderers, many of whom did not even do a fraction of their sentences, back into society. Oh, and by the way, he further proved this God wannabe attitude, if you want to call it that, by completely ignoring medical science and assuming as if he is an expert in forensics. In a radio interview done last Thursday, Mr. Bevin, when asked about his controversial last-minute pardon of At.should, the man who was convicted of raping a 9-year-old girl on multiple occasions over the course of 2 years, when asked about why he pardoned this child rapist, someone of who, by the way, was barely into his 23-year sentence, Mr. Bevin decided to play medical expert and basically defended the convicted criminal child rapist, in turn discrediting the poor girl who suffered immensely by stating that there were no signs of rape and that her, quote-unquote, hymen was intact, end quotes. And I'm reading a transcript of what he stated in the radio interview. He said, her hymen was intact. This is perhaps more specific than people would want, but trust me, if you have been repeatedly sexually violated as a small child by an adult, there are going to be repercussions of that physically and medically. However, guess what, Mr. Bevin? Sorry, but we're not going to trust you. We're going to trust the poor girl, the pediatricians, and forensic science. In fact, according to Forensic Science International, a peer-reviewed journal, a survey of pediatric child abuse rape cases indicated that only 2.1% of subjects examined had visible lesions on the hymen. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Bevin, by making these scientifically inaccurate comments, Bevin, you may have discouraged sexual assault survivors from wanting to come forward for fear now that they won't pass the Bevin, no hymen, no broke, hence no rape test. Wonderful job, ex-governor. Oh, and by the way, going back to that radio interview when Bevin was asked how he could stomach pardoning a child rapist, Bevin initially replied, which one? So apparently, there were several child rapists that he pardoned. Here's another winner. Bevin apparently also pardoned Paul Donnell Hurt, or Donald Hurt, I don't know how to say that. But anyways, he was serving a life sentence. I repeat, a life sentence for sexually abusing and sodomizing a 6-year-old girl 20 years ago. And when specifically asked about this pardon, Bevin basically just stated, the prosecutors need to, quote unquote, look at the facts, end quotes. Whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. Oh, and let's not forget his pardoning and in turn freeing Dayton Jones, the rapist that I mentioned earlier, the one who sexually assaulted a 15-year-old at a party, causing several internal injuries to the poor boy intern, and later posting a video of it on the internet. You know, the more I think of it, and again, these are all just hypotheses and theories, and I'm just doing this on the fly and doing this as I go along, but this could, you know what, this could be like a silent sixth reason, okay? Number 6. Because originally I was not going to include this in this video, but I'm just going to throw this out there, okay? This is number 6. Maybe from a Freudian psychoanalytical standpoint, kind of in a similar vein to my last video, to how I hypothesized one's behavior reflected on the utilization of a specific defense mechanism, maybe here, Mr. Bevin is utilizing the neurotic defense mechanism of reaction formation. Reaction formation is basically the unconscious conversion of unwanted or dangerous thoughts, feelings, or impulses into their opposites, or layman's terms, basically acting the opposite of what one thinks or truly feels. The reason behind this is because the emotions and impulses are so anxiety producing and basically perceived as threatening to one's ego that the only way to continue to persist is to unconsciously convert these threatening thoughts to their complete opposite. A perfect example is that guy or girl that you're crushing on or you were crushing on. Those crushing thoughts may be so distressing and anxiety provoking to you that the only way to function is for your unconscious to convert these love thoughts so that in turn you act out that you hate that someone when in reality you're actually really crushing deep down inside and love someone. Because if the unconscious conversion doesn't occur, your ego will be suffering on a constant, on a continual basis with that anxiety just knocking on that ego's door all the time. If this all makes sense. So yeah, maybe this is going on with Bevin's case. Maybe the thought of these child rapists and killers and their existence are so distressing and paralyzing to him that his unconscious decided to do the complete opposite and help them out by pardoning and releasing them to the community, a form of reaction formation. Though he probably would have done it globally instead of selectively, and yeah, he would have released all the child rapists and killers and violent offenders, not just a select few, if this was the case. So yeah, maybe the defense mechanism of reaction formation may not be into play here. Although maybe this number of 400 and change, maybe this is sufficient enough and satisfying, just enough to satisfy his unconscious. Anyways, the bottom line is that this never should have happened. What sort of message is this showing to society? More importantly, what sort of message is this showing to the victims' families? And can you imagine being one of these poor family members being related to one of these victims? You go through this grueling court process, which more than likely emotionally and physically drains you out. That probably took, I'm guessing, many, many, many months at minimum to complete, all in the vein of fighting for justice for your loved one. And finally, the convicted criminal who did wrong to your loved one finally is locked up and barely starts his or her sentence, only to be taken away by some loser miles away in a second's time because he said so. All that hard work just taken away, boom, in a second's time, just like that. And yes, by the way, I did call him a loser because that's what technically he is. He's technically lost his election, right? So yeah, he's a loser. In fact, since it's the end of the year, Psych Guy is going to award Mr. Bevin, Mr. Matt Bevin, Psych Guy's annual award for Loser of the Year. Kind of like how Time Magazine a few weeks ago appointed Greta Thunberg as their Person of the Year, although I personally thought it should have been given to Baby Yoda, but that's a discussion for a different day. But yeah, and the sad thing going back to Mr. Bevin is that I don't live in Kentucky and don't know how good of a governor he was, nor do I have to in order to realize that this guy goes down as one of the worst governors in modern U.S. political history just based on the 428 ridiculous pardons that he enacted the last few days before his term was up. Yeah, this guy was the worst. I mean, I'm not saying from a professional standpoint that I'm the best in my field, but I'm definitely not saying that I'm the worst. But this guy right here, I'm telling you, this guy, yeah, he was the worst governor that I've come across in a long time. Wait a minute. Wasn't he the same loser who insulted teachers by accusing teachers of leaving children vulnerable to sexual assault and drug use after these teachers decided to, I believe 2 years ago, conduct a statewide walkout in protest for their low pay and benefits? Hold on here, let me look at it. Oh yeah, this is the same loser. He also, by the way, blamed teachers. I'm not making this up. He actually literally blamed teachers for the accidental shooting of a 7-year-old girl by her 11-year-old brother who happened to be home during another round of teacher protest sit-outs. Seriously, I'm not making this up. Look this up. This is all facts. But man, this guy. Okay, so yeah, to recap. The bottom line into all this is that no one is God. This high volume of violent criminals should not have been pardoned and released. In fact, I feel if anything, from a psychophilosophical sense, this continuation of pardoning will only allow individuals such as Matt Bevin, who have a more than higher probable inflated sense of one's power, to only exhibit such extreme forms of displaying it by excessively pardoning highly questionable individuals and releasing them back into society. So the real discussion to all this moving forward is, how do we fix this moving forward? Maybe just reserve pardoning for the extreme unjust cases, such as political prisoners or folks deemed innocent through DNA scientific testing or completed investigations by organizations such as the Innocence Project, maybe? Or maybe it's time we put a cap into how many pardons a governor or the president is allowed to do? Or maybe instead of the pardons coming all at once at the end of one's executive service, maybe give the governor or president the ability to pardon, but more so in a stepwise annual fashion. I think maybe if they do that on an annual basis, this in turn will also serve to allow the voters to look into the psyche better on who truly is a candidate that they voted into the office, into the position, and if they like what they see, and if they more than likely will vote for him or her when re-election comes around. Also, this whole being able to pardon someone exclusively by one person, someone who doesn't probably know all the ins and outs of the case, is just way too extreme in my humble opinion. Besides, why make a mockery of the judicial branch of government? I thought the tripartite entity of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the government should be all equal amongst each other, with no one having more influence or power over the other. It's like checks and balances, right? And why even go through court processes or trials if in the end you may find that someone who doesn't know anything about the case may read a brief summary from a sheet of paper years later, many years later, may come around in the back end and pardon those that are tried and convicted through the courts. Or maybe it's time that we pardon the act of pardoning. All right, great. Well, thanks guys for watching my video. If you like what you saw, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe down below. We'd love to hear from you. Which of the reasons do you think you agree with? Or a combination of reasons of why you think that Mr. Bevin acted the way he did? Or better yet, is there a reason that I didn't list that you think is the cause of why he behaved the way that he did? Would love to hear from you good people. Lastly, I want to wish everyone out there a happy, merry, wonderful Christmas to you and your loved ones who are watching this video. There's a good chance that I may do a video or two before the end of the year. I have no idea what my schedule is going to entail, but if I don't, I want to wish you also, in addition to Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. So yeah, and I for sure am going to go ahead, if you don't see me before the end of this year, I will definitely see you guys next year, same place, same time, definitely early next year. So yeah, thank you guys so much. It's been a wonderful year, 1,000 subscribers. Let's keep it coming. You guys rock, and I guess I'll see you next time around. Take care. Peace.